Hi everyone, welcome to a quick revision on the question that is known as language analysis or writer's effect in the 0500 paper 1, and this is meant to be a quick revision, so it's not an introduction to the question because there are many of those videos on YouTube already, and they are done brilliantly by some other teachers. So if you want an introduction, you should watch those. This is meant to be a quick revision. Okay, so I'm doing the question that is adapted from the February-March 2015 paper with the new instructions. Okay, so this is the question. So we are always asked to reread the descriptions of. There are two parts to the question, A and B. For today and in this video, I will be doing question A. Okay, so in question A, you are required to pick up phrases which describes the road and its surroundings in paragraph 3, beginning with almost immediately. Okay, so very important, of course, to read the instructions. Of course, by the time you go for your exams, this should be like at the back of your hand. You would know it already, but just for the purpose of being on the same page, yeah? So explain how the writer uses language to convey meaning and to create effect in these paragraphs. So remember, the crucial point here is not to define, to give a dictionary definition of the words or the phrases, but to talk about how it conveys meaning and create effect. Okay, so you need to choose 3 examples of words or phrases. So we're talking about pretty tiny ones. Avoid picking out really long, like almost a sentence. Okay, you need to be quite specific. Okay, we're talking about like 1 or 2 or 3 sort of thing. Anything any longer than like 4 or 5 words, it's pretty rare. It happens on some occasions where you may be required to do that. Actually, there's one example in this one, but very rare. Okay, so for each paragraph to support your answer, your choices should include the use of imagery. This is super important. Okay, the intention or the purpose of this question is actually to test or to see if candidates can actually vividly describe and understand the use of imagery. Okay, that's what we do in writing as well. Okay, so you need to write 200 to 300 words, and 15 marks are available for the content of your answer. Okay, so let's get to the question. So I will go through the paragraph with you, which is paragraph 3. Remember to pick out words and phrases which the writer has used to describe the road and its surroundings. Okay, so I like to do this with my students. I know the word road and surround, this is simple enough, right? But I always like to do a little charade kind of thing with them. Show me road, I will ask them. So road, when you read the paragraph, of course, the road goes like this, right? And then its surroundings, so you have like surroundings. So you have to imagine then the road that the users would be using and also its surroundings. Okay, it's important to be able to visualize very clearly what you are going to be reading and writing about and what the writer is actually trying to describe. Okay, and always remember to visualize this in the context of the passage. Yeah, okay, so this is the paragraph. Almost immediately we entered the canyon. So nothing there. I always instruct for my students to, especially if you're already going in for your exams like 6 months prior, you should be able to pick up phrases as you go along already. Okay, so nothing in the first line or sentence here. The road turned so sharply round a rocky outcrop that we felt we were being thrown into the void. So, of course, what does the road do? The road causes the user to feel like they are being thrown into the void, right? So that's the phrase, thrown into the void. This is what the road does and what it makes the readers see or feel if you were in the place of the user on the road. Okay, so that's the first phrase. I looked back. The narrow gap through which we had just passed seemed to clang shut behind us. You can see there's a technique used already. That is always, well, one way to tell. Okay, so how does the user feel? They feel like as they walk, the road seems to clang shut behind them. Okay, so the onomatopoeic phrase. Okay, to our right, 200 meters below us, the turquoise river writhed and frothed over the rocks. There you have another technique. Okay, and then you have in roars echoing from side to side. To our left, a sheer rock face loomed over us, for sure. So of course, the sheer rock face of the mountains, and then looming over. So you have to be able to imagine then that if you are the user and traveling on that road and you are looking up, and this feeling of being so small and then looking up at the face of the mountain that just seems to stretch and stretch just really far up into the skies. Okay, so loomed over us. Ahead of us, a section of the track had been partially washed away by the winter rains. We could not turn around. It was as if we had been lured into a trap. Of course, lured into a trap. So you would get that sense that the writer is trying to create that feeling of, when the users of the road are traveling into the canyon, they feel like as they travel, it's not so easy to turn around and go back down. So as you go further and further inside, you feel as if, it's enticing what's before you, that idea of goal, or that idea of the hopes and dreams. The answer to your hopes and dreams lies, ahead, or, further down this road. So you keep walking on and on. But of course, the journey itself seems like it's never ending. So hence being lured into a trap. Okay, so we scrambled out and picked our way across the unstable ground while the driver slowly maneuvered the vehicle behind us with only centimeters to spare. There was no safety barriers, and the rusting, broken-backed carcass of a vehicle below told its story. So of course, the broken back carcass, this would be the surrounding, right? You want to be careful to pick out words that both describe the road and the surrounding, because that's the instruction, right? And then, so this is one for surrounding, and the road before us vanished into the distance, clinging, so another one more for the road, clinging for 9 kilometers to the sides of the precipice. So this is a really beautifully written paragraph, and of course, overall, what are we as readers are meant to feel when we read this? That's one of the things that you have to decide very quickly after picking out your phrases, and then you need to decide first on which tree you want to use, and then what is the overall picture that it creates. Okay, so of course, reading this, thrown into the void, clang shut behind us, riff and froth loom over us, lured into a trap, broken back carcass, and the road clinging for 9 kilometers to the side of the precipice. Of course, it sounds like a road that is pretty dangerous or treacherous to travel on, right? And of course, you have things like clang shuts and lured into a trap. That of course creates a sense of entrapment. Yeah, so those would be the overalls that you would want to write at the very beginning of your paragraph. Okay, and then of course the tree that you want to pick out. I have chosen for this sample here, thrown out into the void, seemed to clang shut behind us, and also broken back carcass. How you decide on which phrases you want to use. So as you are picking out the phrases, I would usually just pick out the phrases without, filtering or editing myself. So just go with the flow. And then once you are done, step back and look at your options, and then see which ones you must have. And then If you have one or two that you feel very strongly about, then choose those, because those will be the ones, of course, you are most likely to be able to write wonderfully on. And then of course you want to make some smart choices based on the ones that you feel you must have. What other choices would actually complement the initial choices you have made? So I like thrown into the void, seem to clang sharp behind us, and also broken back carcass, because I feel that it gives allows for me an opportunity to showcase how I understand how the writer actually describes the road, and also how he describes the surrounding. And there are lots of techniques to actually explain and share about here also, and to write in our paragraph. Okay, so thrown into the void, we are talking about something pretty forceful. The road that you are traveling on causes you to feel like you're being thrown out into the void. So breaking it down, thrown, of course, is a very forceful action or movement. And of course, void, it has appeared a couple of times in different passages. Void, of course, we're talking about like space. Okay, so this space, of course, we're talking about the space beyond the road and falling into the canyon. Okay, all right, and then of course I like seem to clang sharp behind us for the very obvious onomatopoeic use of the word clang, and also this imaginary gate that we would, that we will visualize when we read this. So I like the use of the word clang here because of its sound effect and also the imagery that we actually get. And of course, broken back carcass, well, to describe the wagons or the horse carriages as carcasses does create for an imagery that's pretty gloomy, and I love the technique as well, so that's why I chose this phrase. Okay, so we'll look at a sample that I have written. Okay, so putting it all together, remember we always start with an overall. Yeah, so overall, the writer creates an imagery of a treacherous road, and its surrounding creates a sense of entrapment. So I've decided to include the word here for my overall treacherous road, imagery of a treacherous road, and surrounding, which creates a sense of entrapment. Right? So the road is described as one that causes its users to be thrown out into the void. Always remember to do, which implies a loss of control. Thrown out creates an imagery of one being pushed over the edge of the road, and void implies into space. Therefore, the writer describes the experience of traveling on this road as dangerous because one would feel constantly on edge, and the fear of losing balance and tipping over into the canyon below is a probable consequence. Right, so that's for the first phrase. The next, the onomatopoeic phrase "seem clang sharp behind us" immediately creates the imagery of a prison with the clanging of the metaphorical gates. This clanging sound effect allows for the visualization of the echo effect in the canyon. The sense of danger is further described by the writer in the phrase "broken backed carcass," likening the wreckage of the horse carriages to animal bones, or to animal bones. The tragic imagery and gloomy reminder of those who had befallen into the watery grave in their quest for gold. Alright, so that's my example. First, the overall, and of course then explaining and analyzing the three phrases that I have picked up. So it's important, of course, to just quickly remember that when you are doing language analysis, you are analyzing language and not providing the examiner evidence of you being able to understand just the word, like in the dictionary. Okay, talk about the imagery that is being created. Okay, and also, of course, mention techniques. The technique that you would use, the technique that you would mention and describe, do not just tell the examiner what the technique actually is. You will need to actually show the examiner evidence that you understand why and how the writer actually uses those techniques. Okay, so I hope that this video is useful for your quick revision on the language analysis or writer effects question. All right, thank you everybody, and wishing you the best of luck in your exam preparation.